Lady just don't get it. This lady just can't get it. Stephanie White, have your team's back for a change. When are you going to put your foot down and have the people in your locker rooms back? This dingbat of a coach is at the podium defending DiJonai Carrington versus Sophie Cunningham. What is going on, man? Stephanie White, this lady is an agent. This lady is there to sabotage Caitlin Clark.
The hardwood was practically radiating heat, but what unfolded in those brutal, blood-chilling seconds wasn't basketball. It was a full-blown physical execution broadcast live to millions of horrified eyes. When DiJonai Carrington locked eyes on Sophie Cunningham midair, the atmosphere instantly shifted from high-stakes competition to an unsanctioned crime zone. That wasn't a standard contest for a rebound. It was a lethal, calculated strike designed to inflict maximum physical damage, sending Sophie crashing down with a sound that froze the entire arena in sheer horror. Screams echoed through the rafters as medical staff sprinted onto the floor, while Carrington stood over her target with an ice-cold glare that signaled absolute malice. The instant the officials watched the slow-motion playback, the verdict was brutal, but the real explosion was only just beginning behind locked doors. As Sophie writhed on the polished floor clutching her neck, whispering in pain, whispers began tearing through the league offices. This wasn't just a flagrant foul, it was an outright assault. The commissioner's phone is ringing off the hook, teammates are screaming for blood, and the entire basketball universe is demanding the ultimate punishment. Is DiJonai Carrington about to be permanently erased from the WNBA forever? To fully understand the poisonous hatred that erupted on the floor tonight, you have to peel back months of simmering, toxic resentment that has been quietly corrupting the WNBA behind closed doors. This wasn't some random, heat-of-the-moment collision that spiraled out of control. This was the catastrophic explosion of a deeply personal vendetta that has been festering in locker rooms, group chats, and league corridors all season long. DiJonai Carrington's burning jealousy towards the sudden, explosive wave of media attention showering players like Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark had reached an absolute boiling point. For years, veterans who put in the brutal work felt completely erased, pushed into the shadows while marketing campaigns, multi-million-dollar endorsement deals, and primetime broadcast slots were handed to a select few. Inside Carrington's circle, the narrative was clear. She felt targeted, overlooked, and systematically disrespected by a league that she believed was playing favorites and catering to a specific image. Sophie Cunningham, with her fearless, physical, non-apologetic playing style and rapidly growing fanbase, represented everything Carrington believed was fundamentally unfair about the WNBA's new golden era. Every single matchup between these two aggressive personalities became a psychological war zone long before the first whistle even blew. Anonymous league insiders reveal that subtweets, icy handshakes, and brutal, whispered threats during pre-game warm-ups had become standard procedure whenever their paths crossed. The tension was so thick that opposing coaches secretly warned referees to keep a tight leash on any physical interactions between them, fearing a full-scale riot on national television. Cunningham, known for never backing down from a fight and standing fiercely as the ultimate enforcer alongside Clark, refused to give an inch, taunting Carrington's every move and turning every possession into a psychological battleground. Meanwhile, Carrington felt isolated, convinced that league officials were actively waiting for her to break so they could make an example out of her. Friends close to DiJonai admit she was operating at a dangerous emotional limit, fueled by an obsession to prove that no hyped-up media darling could ever bully her on the court without paying a severe price. The locker room walls could barely contain the raw hostility, as teammates privately begged both players to cool off before someone's career ended up in jeopardy. But the hatred was already far too deep, built on layers of perceived disrespect, racial tension, and relentless online hate campaigns that drove Carrington to a dark breaking point. When they stepped onto the court tonight, the basketball was completely secondary. The arena was a powder keg, and Carrington was simply waiting for the exact right moment to spark the explosion. She didn't just want to win a regular season game. She wanted to deliver a devastating message that would shake the league to its very core. Consequences be damned. The explosion happened with terrifying speed, shattering any illusion that this was just an ordinary basketball game. Sophie Cunningham broke free on a fast break, driving hard toward the rim, totally unaware of the shadow charging up rapidly behind her. DiJonai Carrington closed the distance with terrifying velocity, her eyes locked not on the basketball, but entirely on Cunningham's exposed neck. Without making even a half-hearted attempt to swipe for the ball, Carrington cocked her arm and delivered a brutal, airborne clothesline that caught Sophie squarely across the jaw and throat. The impact sounded like a cracking whip through the arena speakers as Sophie went airborne, flipping violently before slamming onto the floor headfirst. The arena went completely silent for a horrified split second as Sophie writhed on the hardwood, clutching her neck in visible agony while medical trainers sprinted onto the floor. Teammates instantly exploded in rage, shoving past referees as a massive brawl threatened to break out right on the sideline. Referees scrambled to restore order, huddling at the replay monitor while reviewing footage from 4 different broadcast cameras. The slow-motion angles left no room for debate. Carrington had wound up, struck with brutal force, and followed through straight into Sophie's upper body. Within moments, the head official announced the verdict over the PA system, a flagrant foul too, triggering DiJonai Carrington's immediate ejection. As Carrington walked off the court to a deafening chorus of boos, she showed zero remorse, staring directly into the cameras with a smirking grin that sent shockwaves through the broadcast booth. Security guarded her path into the tunnel, but the real nightmare was only beginning in the dark hallway leading to the locker room. Barely 3 minutes after being escorted off the court, while the game was still actively being played, Carrington pulled out her phone and executed a move that turned an on-court foul into a full-blown national scandal. She published a public post tagging the Indiana Fever directly, with just 2 explosive words in all caps: white privilege. The notification echoed instantly across millions of phones worldwide, igniting an immediate firestorm across social media before the quarter had even ended. While medical staff hastily wrapped Sophie's sprained neck in the training room, Carrington was actively fanning the flames of racial division and league corruption directly from her locker room stall. Then came the first massive, jaw-dropping twist that no one in the arena saw coming. Leaked internal league communications revealed that Carrington had allegedly received an explicit warning from WNBA officials just 48 hours prior. Sources indicate she had been placed on strict probation following a series of off-court incidents, with a clear directive that any major flagrant foul or unsportsmanlike public outburst would result in immediate, severe disciplinary action. By posting that message mid-game, Carrington didn't just defy her referees. She deliberately tore up a binding league ultimatum. Within minutes of Carrington's explosive post, the situation spiraled into complete and unadulterated chaos, breaking out of the sports world and transforming into a full-scale cultural emergency. Inside the stadium, game operations completely collapsed under the sheer weight of the unfolding madness as security scrambled to contain growing unrest in the stands. Sophie Cunningham sat in the training room wrapped in ice packs and a neck brace, weeping in pain while team physicians frantically evaluated her for a severe concussion and potential spinal damage. Outside the locker rooms, shouting matches erupted between security guards, team executives, and league personnel who were desperately trying to control the narrative before live broadcast networks cut their feeds. Reporters in the media room were frantically typing updates as social media algorithms completely melded the incident into an unprecedented viral storm. Every single angle of the brutal contact was being replayed millions of times, dissected by fans, cultural commentators, and political figures alike. In the middle of this absolute circus, Fever head coach Stephanie White walked into the post-game press conference and dropped a bombshell that stunned everyone in attendance. Instead of fiercely defending her fallen player, Coach White took the podium and offered a lukewarm, cautious defense of Carrington, downplaying the hit and claiming she didn't believe there was any malicious intent behind the contact. The room went dead silent as journalists traded baffled looks, unable to comprehend why a coach would publicly throw her own bruised and battered star under the bus. Back in the locker room, word of White's shocking statements reached Cunningham's teammates, triggering an explosive shouting match that could be heard echoing straight through the press room walls. Teammates openly accused the coaching staff of being terrified of league political blowback, choosing to protect their own careers rather than standing up for a player who had just been violently attacked on live television. The locker room was fractured beyond repair, with factions forming between players who felt Carrington crossed an unforgivable line and those who felt the incident was being weaponized for political optics. Then came the second shocking twist. A revelation so terrifying it sent ice water through the veins of every high-ranking official in the WNBA headquarters. An anonymous league whistleblower leaked an audio recording from an emergency conference call held between team owners and senior executive staff immediately following Carrington's ejection. On the recording, a high-ranking league official could be heard admitting that Carrington had allegedly threatened to release damaging internal emails detailing systemic corruption and favoritism within the organization if the league dared to hand down a multi-game suspension. The hit on Sophie Cunningham wasn't just a physical outburst, it was part of a terrifying, calculated game of chicken between a rogue player and a league hierarchy terrified of its secrets leaking out to the public. Carrington had backed the entire WNBA into a corner, daring them to strike her down while holding a metaphorical bomb over their heads. By the following morning, the entire sports ecosystem had turned into a toxic battlefield, with sports talk shows, political commentators, and social media platforms locked in nonstop, furious debates. News outlets aired the slow-motion collision on a continuous loop, while millions of fans took to the internet to scream for justice or defend the violence. The physical toll on Sophie Cunningham was far worse than initially reported. As leaking medical updates revealed, she suffered a severe cervical strain, a grade 2 concussion, and painful facial bruising that would sideline her indefinitely. Photos of Sophie leaving the arena in a thick medical neck brace went instantly viral, driving her dedicated fanbase into an absolute, unbridled frenzy. Petitions demanding that DiJonai Carrington be permanently expelled from professional basketball garnered hundreds of thousands of signatures within hours, causing sponsor-server platforms to crash under the overwhelming traffic. Major corporate brands sponsoring both the league and individual players began sending emergency emails to league headquarters, threatening to pull tens of millions of dollars in marketing deals if the situation wasn't resolved with extreme prejudice. In the middle of the raging firestorm, Carrington's private life was exposed to unimaginable scrutiny, turning her into one of the most polarizing figures in modern athletic history. Instead of showing remorse or laying low, Carrington doubled down during a raw, unedited live stream, launching a blistering attack against her critics and accusing the media of orchestrating a coordinated hit job to protect white athletes. The emotional fallout tore directly through the Players Association, shattering any remaining unity among the athletes as high-profile stars began unfollowing each other and taking passive-aggressive jabs online. Caitlin Clark, trapped right in the center of the media circus, faced relentless interrogation from reporters demanding she choose a side in the escalating war between her teammate and her rival. Meanwhile, Sophie Cunningham posted an emotional, heartbreak-filled statement from her bed, detailing the terrifying moment she lost feeling in her arms on the court and expressing deep betrayal over how her own head coach handled the aftermath. The locker room environment in Indiana completely disintegrated into paranoia and anger, with players refusing to speak to Coach Stephanie White without union representatives present in the room. The WNBA's public image was taking a catastrophic beating on a global stage, morphing from a booming success story into a chaotic circus defined by racial hostility, physical violence, and internal mutiny. Anonymous sources inside the league office revealed that Commissioner Kathy Engelbert was working around the clock, holding emergency sessions with legal teams and crisis management experts who warned her that the wrong decision could destroy the league's reputation forever. Every minute without an official announcement from the league office only added more fuel to the raging fires of public outrage, leaving fans and players alike waiting on pins and needles for the hammer to drop. As the deadline for the league's official disciplinary ruling ticked away, the atmosphere inside WNBA headquarters was thick with pure, suffocating panic. Crisis handlers were practically pacing through the executive hallways, trying to draft an announcement that would somehow appease millions of screaming fans without triggering a catastrophic legal war with the players' union. Finally, just as national sports networks broke into live programming to broadcast the verdict, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert took the stage, looking pale, exhausted, and visibly shaken under the blinding camera lights. She read from a prepared statement with an unsteady voice, announcing that after an exhaustive review of the physical footage and post-game conduct, DiJonai Carrington was officially handed an unprecedented, indefinite suspension, effectively removing her from the WNBA for the remainder of her career. The announcement sent a thunderous shockwave across the entire sports world, with headlines instantly declaring it the most brutal punishment ever handed down in the history of professional women's basketball. For a brief, shining moment, it seemed like justice had finally been served, and that Sophie Cunningham and her supporters had won a total, decisive victory against absolute lawlessness on the court. Carrington's supporters exploded in raw fury, accusing the league of giving into public mob rule, while Cunningham's fans openly celebrated what they believed was the permanent erasure of the league's most dangerous instigator. But just as the news cycles began to digest the historic penalty, the ultimate, horrifying twist ripped through the entire scandal like a blinding bolt of lightning. Less than 45 minutes after the suspension was made public, a burner account on an encrypted messaging platform leaked a massive cache of confidential internal documents, complete with verified digital signatures from top league executives. The leaked files contained private text threads, legal non-disclosure agreements, and secret financial ledgers proving that high-ranking WNBA officials had actively manufactured and fueled the entire rivalry between Carrington and Cunningham for months. The documents exposed a secret marketing scheme codenamed Project Catalyst, designed to deliberately engineer high-stakes physical altercations and racial controversies on live television to skyrocket broadcast ratings and social media engagement. Even more disturbing, the files revealed that Carrington's violent hit on Cunningham was not a random act of rage, but the tragic, manipulated result of intense psychological pressure applied directly by league operatives who promised her protection if she created viral, highly confrontational moments. When Carrington realized she was being thrown to the wolves as a sacrificial lamb to cover up the league's unethical puppet mastery, she authorized the release of the ultimate smoking gun, a hidden audio recording of a top executive explicitly instructing her to make contact during the game. The entire league was instantly exposed as a compromised, dangerous theater where players were used as pawn collateral for raw, sensationalized corporate greed. Now, with the league's corrupt underbelly exposed to the entire world, Carrington is threatening to expose every single executive involved, while Cunningham realizes her life-altering injuries were suffered for a rigged corporate show. As the FBI reportedly prepares to open an investigation into systemic fraud and player endangerment, one chilling, unanswered question hangs over the entire broken league. Who was really behind the order to destroy Sophie Cunningham, and how far up does this dark conspiracy actually go? This massive WNBA conspiracy is unraveling faster than anyone ever thought possible, and the shocking secrets exposed today are only the tip of the iceberg. Was DiJonai Carrington simply a rogue agent, or was she pushed into a dangerous trap by a corrupt league chasing viral headlines at any cost? And can Sophie Cunningham ever trust the WNBA hierarchy again after suffering a career-threatening injury for a manufactured corporate show? We need to know your thoughts right now down in the comments. Did the league go too far with a lifetime ban, or did they not go far enough to protect their players from unsanctioned violence? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on all notifications because this explosive story is far from over. Every single hour brings new leaked documents, shocking player responses, and high-stakes legal updates that you cannot afford to miss. Stay locked in right here as we continue bringing you the absolute rawest, unfiltered, and deeply shocking truth behind the modern WNBA.